There's only a difference between, okay, well, what is goodness? What is truth? And then we can have a conversation about that, and we'll be happy to show that Islam is the truth, and we can have that conversation.
Yeah, so you have that cleared up there, that jihad does not equal holy war. I believe that this is actually a Christian term, holy war. This is not
of the Crusades.
The Crusades. That's number one. So jihad, to struggle and strive. Then you have also what you had talked about in this aspect, where you had, for instance, if you study history, you had Spain, for instance. You had two fractions of Christians fighting each other, and one is oppressing the other. And then you have these Christians who are opening the doors, calling the we come in to help. We can use this as one example, right, of a jihad. So then they came in, but they didn't come in now massacring everyone like you had what were the Spanish Inquisitions, where they were just everybody by the sword, convert or die. You had, once they were in, you had Islam because of its. Obviously they came in, there was some fighting, but at the end, people were being oppressed. Now Islam comes in, justice is established, and you can't have peace without the justice. And now people were freely accepting the Muslims.
Right. It's hard to imagine because there are so many connotations and stereotypes about what does it mean to have like a conquest.
Yeah.
Right. But in those
Can you say
times,
an opening where they opened up?
Yeah, they opened, and it's basically new management. Okay. It's new management, but it doesn't mean, we're going to go door to door like this is Nazi Germany.
Yeah, no.
And we're going to put you in camps. Like that, people in prior to the nation state, in the modern period you have nation states, but prior to that you had governorships.
Yeah.
And people were used to these changes in management. Right? It's just a difference of who you're paying your taxes to. And then there are certain restrictions that will apply depending on who's in charge. But that was something that was normal and accepted. But the thing is that when you have the opening of Egypt, or you have the opening of Persia or North Africa or Spain, okay, it wasn't this bloody massacre. It's from the true perspective, the spreading of truth, and then within those lands, the people would convert after seeing the benefits that Islam is bringing to their land. Okay, we've just been conquered. This is what happened in Persia. Okay, we've just been conquered by these Arabs, and we have a natural aversion because of racism to Arabs. This is the Persian Empire. But then after a generation or two, we see, wow, Islam has prohibited fornication. Islam has prohibited adultery. Islam has prohibited incest, which was a big practice with the Zoroastrians prior to Islam. Islam is bringing peace. Islam is bringing family cohesion. Islam is bringing a strong community that is oriented toward God, towards loving and worshiping God. We're experiencing all of these benefits in terms of our material, in terms of our character, in terms of justice. Islam comes and prohibits usury, interest, right? Something that is such an evil, social evil that oppresses. Islam is coming and abolishing it. The Quran is abolishing it. So then this is the truth. Like this, compare what we have now under new management with what we had before. Okay, then this is how that entire region became Muslim. And some of the greatest scholars of Islam, Sunni Islam, were coming from Iran, from Persia. And so that's something that I consider part of my heritage. But this happened all across the Middle East, North Africa. And there's nothing that, as Muslims, we should be ashamed of that. In fact, we have to be proud of that history and that heritage.
Yeah, moving on to the next, but just reiterating this point, like that many people, for those that know, but for those that don't know, you had those clear guidelines. Even when the opening offensive or whatever battles were taking place before the Geneva Convention, you had the example of the Prophet ﷺ, who was sent as a mercy to mankind, where there was a clear, if you're going to engage in battle, the restrictions, again, killing innocent women, children, monks in their places of worship, or harming people who who are not engaged in the battles. These kind of things, this was unknown at that time. I mean, there was because people think like Mongols coming in, everybody's dying, pregnant woman, every rape and all that. This is something the antithesis of Islam, to see those rules of engagement so clearly laid out, even before the Geneva Convention.
Right. It's something that is contrary to Islamic principles, as you mentioned, to just go and massacre. It's also contrary to the philosophy of Islam at a very deep level. Let me explain why. Because so many of the conflicts in history, the vast majority are on the basis of ethnic conflict, right? You had the Mongols who invaded, and they were an ethnicity, and they were massacring non-Mongols, right? You have Han Chinese, you have different African tribes, all of this ethnic conflict. In Europe, the history of all of the wars, many of the wars were based on the basis of ethnicity more than religion. But Islam is not an ethnicity. Islam is a deen, right? It's a religion, and people can convert to the religion. And so actually from a material point of view, even if you take out conception of God and religion out of it, even from a purely materialistic standpoint, it would be contrary to the logic of Muslims to kill non-Muslims. Why? Because you want them to convert eventually, and then they're part of your army. They're part of your empire. And so your empire is growing, right? And you're getting that kind of growth in numbers, which is so important in pre-modern times, because whoever has the biggest army is going to win, right? Is going to win the battle, and mostly it's a numbers game. So you want as many people as possible to become Muslim. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, whatever race, right? Whatever ethnicity, you're coming in. So it's contrary to the philosophy. But if you have an ethnic-based philosophy that we have a certain race, white, black, Asian, whatever, then no, we have to kill the non-whites because they might start reproducing, and then their army is gonna. If we like beat them once, and we don't massacre them all, then they're going to start having kids. They're going to have babies. Then their army is going to grow. Yeah. Their ethnicity is going to grow, and then they're going to take their revenge. Yeah. So from an ethnic basis, no, we have to massacre as many as we can.
And this is what you saw.
We have to rape as many as we can.
And this is what you've seen in the greatest genocide after World War II in Bosnia, where my family's from. This is what was happening: nationalistic wars, things like this. This
with the Serbs, of course.